The World Within, inspired by Manly P. Hall, written and published by Audible Aria. The person has two different sets of rules they follow, one inside their mind and one outside. Many times what a person says or claims doesn't match what they truly feel inside. This can lead to confusion and inner struggles for many people, causing them to seek help when their inner thoughts don't match their outward actions. The big issue with our inner thoughts is how strong they can be. These thoughts are usually very intense, and our conscious mind doesn't often question or control them. Sometimes we face pressures that we can't defend against. These pressures might be seen as coming from past actions or karma. When we're born, we carry a lot of unresolved things with us. Most of the time we're here to fix things we've done wrong, learn from our mistakes, and become better humans. However, sometimes we don't fix those mistakes and they keep affecting us. We live with them and they control us. Until we can manage our inner selves, our outer lives won't go well. We'll face problems often. Take an example from the world of education. Education has a big impact on most people. If someone gets a very good education, they are expected to become a polite and decent person. But this doesn't always happen. Instead of becoming kinder, they might just become better at using their selfishness to get what they want, even if it's not good for everyone. Education doesn't always make someone fundamentally good. It can make them skilled but not necessarily moral. They may become educated but not wise. And this can lead to many problems in life that they will experience over time. How come spending so many years in school doesn't change who we are deep down? Why can we achieve so much in our careers but still not understand the real purpose of our lives? We also need to think about how most people, regardless of what they achieve, are influenced by old academic pressures. Our bodies have their own limits and pressures. They demand things that our minds and hearts might not agree with. Our minds try to control everything, causing a conflict inside us that leads to a lot of sadness in the world. Here is another important example: religion. Almost every country has received a meaningful religious message at some point. These messages include rules and beliefs meant to help people grow spiritually, morally, and ethically. However, even though about 70 to 75% of the world claims to follow religions that promote peace and unity among people, we still have wars happening. Religion hasn't been able to stop individuals from being selfish inside. Also, different religions often can't get along with each other, and sometimes they can't even agree within their own branches. Here is a good set of rules based on natural and divine laws, and most people agree with it. But only a few can actually follow it in their daily lives. Because of the misuses of religion, there's been a big shift where some societies reject religion altogether. They believe that religion is just a tool used by powerful groups to control people's minds. So they've gotten rid of it and replaced it with something else. However, this new thing ends up doing the same thing, controlling people's minds. The principles haven't really changed. There are new names, new political beliefs, new explanations, and new excuses, but the old ways of controlling people continue. In the scientific world, there's every reason to create a strong moral code. Even though scientists focus on the material world, they have no solid reason for being purely materialistic. They witness incredible wonders that should make them feel awe for the infinite universe. However, they often miss the mystery and beauty in their own research. They can't see beyond their formulas to the spiritual principles that underlie them. These principles are spiritual mysteries. So scientists are surrounded by evidence of an eternal plan, but still doubt everything. In terms of government, every nation has been given guidelines from either religion or philosophy on how to govern properly. Most governments agree with these guidelines. They talk about justice, protecting and serving their citizens. Leaders say they serve their people. But in reality, these truths are not truly believed. They are accepted and talked about, but they are not put into action. Everywhere we look, there are many problems in the world. We have lots of teachings from different areas like religion, philosophy, science, ethics, politics, and society, all saying what we should do. But even though these ideas are accepted and known, they don't seem to deeply affect how people treat each other. So, we need to reflect on why, despite having Christianity for 19 centuries, we haven't fully made it the basis of how we treat each other. We recognize the value of religion in life, seen in the many churches in our cities and communities, often supported by both regular churchgoers and influential people. Even though churches exist in these towns and communities, they haven't stopped them from having harmful feudalistic attitudes. It's puzzling that something considered very civilizing has been around for so long, yet many people haven't become more civilized. It all comes down to the individual. The solution must come from within each person and enough individuals together to bring progress. However, we are currently in a time where ordinary people might not have the qualifications to solve major social issues. While we have some influence, like the power to vote, there are limits to what we can achieve. Many of the big problems we face seem beyond our control. We can only endure, hope, and try to follow the principles we believe in, though we might not always succeed in doing so. When you work closely with these individuals, you'll find that many of them have studied extensively. Some have spent their whole lives exploring esoteric subjects. Some have become experts in astrology, while others have delved into alchemy and various Eastern philosophies and religions. They have dedicated a lot of time to understanding natural laws as taught in spiritual traditions. However, despite all this knowledge, the ability to quote renowned experts, and a strong loyalty to these teachings, most of these individuals struggle to manage their own lives. They seem unable to apply what they believe in a practical way. The question is why people struggle with this. The answer lies in their strong focus on self-interest. As Buddha said over 2,500 years ago, when someone is mainly concerned with themselves, they're already lost, and no amount of education can help until they overcome this self-centeredness. Being self-centered can make someone willingly go against their own morals if it benefits them personally. Compromising like this is always a mistake, especially when it's to improve material things right away. Essentially, it means giving up spiritual truths for material gains. It's like trading something valuable for something less important. People do this because they're focused on their immediate goals, even if it means risking their health, happiness, home, and future due to bad karma. Inside each of us, there's a strong desire to do whatever we want, no matter what. This desire is so old and familiar that we don't even question it anymore. We don't think to ourselves, I'm indulging in my worst tendencies. Instead, we assume that doing what pleases us is the main reason for being alive. We don't argue for it because we can't. We don't try to understand it because we're afraid of realizing we're wrong. So we simply accept that any impulse we have to benefit ourselves is unavoidable, permanent, and divinely inspired. We assume a lot and just act based on what we think without having solid reasons for it. One common sign of this is our struggle to follow the golden rule. Almost everyone agrees it's important, and it's a part of many religions. However, although we talk about it a lot, we often don't actually treat others the way we want to be treated. Instead, we do what we want to others, hoping they won't react quickly enough to retaliate. We also have a sense of love within us. In early Christian mysticism, the human heart is seen as sacred, like the Holy Grail that held the blood of the Saviour. However, many people focus on appearing good on the outside, but they don't look deeply into their own emotions and spiritual beliefs. They haven't cleaned up their inner feelings or intentions. Instead, they use their heart to fulfill whatever impulse or attitude they have at the moment. We have a way of tricking ourselves into thinking that our mistakes are special and somehow good. We can justify and forgive almost any attitude we want, making ourselves feel right while others might disagree. We often struggle with understanding the true meaning of life. Mystics have made some of the best attempts at this. They seek an inner connection with God, and when they find it genuinely, they become humble, selfless, and less interested in material wealth. They also avoid harmful behaviors. Mystics prioritize eternal values over temporary ones, and see themselves as part of a universal community governed by universal laws that are more important than human-made laws. When a nation's laws go against natural laws, it's in trouble, and we're in big trouble now. Similarly, when a person loses their integrity, they're in trouble too, and it's serious. The universe works in such a way that there's a direct link between societal problems and the actions of individuals within that society. The world we live in reflects what we've earned. If we haven't earned peace, we won't have it. If we haven't been kind to others, they won't be kind to us. And if we prioritize schemes over principles and integrity, we'll keep suffering from our own schemes as long as we continue down this path. It's important to understand that our time on Earth is short compared to the vastness of existence. This doesn't mean we won't have another chance later on, but right now, we have limited time and lots of problems to deal with. Considering that our material well-being is at risk and that we're responsible for it, it would make sense for us to try to align with the larger plan of the universe during our short lives. We should realize that we're not just bound by human-made rules, but also by universal laws that are unchangeable and unavoidable. It's worth giving up some temporary comforts of this world to ensure we're on the winning side in the long run. It would make sense for us to start thinking seriously about correcting our own arrogance or misunderstandings. For most people, this isn't anything grand or impressive, but it's important. People often come to me with their problems, like why they can't get along with family members or why they're anxious because their child plans to marry someone from another religion. Sometimes, these issues stem from past grievances that they haven't resolved. People who claim to have freed themselves from their personal biases often spend a lot of time explaining in great detail all their misfortunes. They can't seem to move on from their grievances and struggle to remember the many good things that have happened to them. They focus more on their complaints. Someone who has faced some challenges has little time to appreciate the good things or realize that they've ruined some good things due to their own attitudes. They seek spiritual comfort, but also hold on tightly to their prejudices, believing their way is always right. They criticize politicians, have conflicts with friends and family, and settle into a state of suffering, not because of real problems, but because of problems they've created for themselves. If you try to point out that this isn't a good religious attitude after listening to their complaints for hours, they might smile sadly and claim they don't hold grudges. They believe their problems are real and that they've endured them patiently for years, suffering every moment. They might say they love everyone, even people they've never met or heard of. How does this happen? How can people tell their stories like this and not realize what they're actually saying? How do they interrupt their complaints to claim they never complain? The answer must be that something inside them has become so fixed and unchangeable that they don't even think about it anymore. It's like an automatic part of them. Someone with a difficult personality sees this as something they can't change or be blamed for. They feel forced to do things they don't want to do, without any power to stop themselves. This leads us to the problem deep within ourselves. There's a blind spot that stops us from working, thinking, living and loving well together. Why is this? After observing, listening and thinking, it seems that most people are born with certain attitudes. They've always had them and think these attitudes define who they are. But that's not true. They believe their likes and dislikes are divine and unchangeable. If they have difficult attitudes, they expect others to adjust to them. They can't change their own perspectives, and telling them they're wrong feels like an insult. They don't realize that they can change this part of themselves. To do that, they need to let go of the idea that holding on to these negative attitudes brings them peace or comfort. If someone thinks their bad attitude defines them and gives them satisfaction from being difficult, they'll keep holding on to it. They won't want to change if being difficult helps them get revenge or feel justified in their thoughts. If their attitude boosts their ego or makes them feel victorious, they'll stick to it, even if it leads to more problems in the end. Their mind acts like a biased lawyer, defending them no matter what, even if they know they're wrong. This should make someone or many people, especially given the current global situation, pause and think about what these principles and problems really mean. Buddhism expressed this idea well, borrowing it from Hinduism, with the line from the Bhagavad Gita, "The mind is the slayer of the real." Our problem stems from our mental processes, what we often refer to as our think tank. It's about how our thoughts shape our understanding. The mind isn't always right. It's often wrong when it takes control. If you tell your mind to do something, if you let your mind do whatever it wants, you'll end up with a tyrant controlling you. If you decide to always defend your mind, whether it's right or wrong, that tyrant will become even stronger. Our minds can sometimes act like evil spirits, encouraging us to dislike others or justify being unpleasant because others are unpleasant. This mindset leads us astray because having a bad attitude can never be justified just because many people have one. It only means that more people will be unhappy, and this negative mindset keeps us from finding happiness. I've witnessed someone with a bad attitude still acting negatively even on their deathbed, saying hurtful things. They never let go of it and even seem to enjoy leaving behind negativity for others. When asked why, they blame others for making them unhappy, believing it's their legacy to make others miserable forever. If we stop thinking our minds are always right and resist the urge to immediately argue against others, we could make progress. The goal is to calm the mind, as scriptures advise, and detach it from selfish desires. Instead, focus on what's best for the long term, not just what we want in the moment. It's about setting an example of integrity, not winning arguments. It can be difficult to make our minds believe in these ideas. One reason is that we've often failed to live up to good intentions. We make promises but break them almost immediately, like New Year's resolutions that rarely last long. Constantly breaking promises weakens our trust in ourselves. To overcome this, we need to redirect our minds or learn to calm and discipline them. We must stop letting our minds control us or mistreat us. It's important to understand that our minds aren't divine powers within us. They can sometimes work against our best interests. By slowing down our thoughts or exposing our minds to new experiences, we can help them think more clearly. Once we show our minds that they're wrong about something, they often cooperate with us. Often when you spend time with something you prejudge, you realize it's not as bad as you thought. Sometimes, scientific studies show that the thing you dislike could actually be crucial for you. What you fear might be what you need the most. In simple terms, when we face life openly and try to understand it and people better, we often find that many of our prejudices are unfounded. And even if some prejudices have a basis, they're not an excuse for behaving badly. They should motivate us to become better. If you have biases, it's not the fault of what you're biased against. It's your own lack of knowledge, and you can overcome it. So calming your mind, not letting it control you, using it as a tool for understanding life, is a crucial step toward internal integrity. Additionally, we should understand that this inner harmony is always changing and should continue to develop as we go through life. We shouldn't think that as we get older, we know everything. That's a big mistake. We only know a tiny part of everything there is to know. To make what we know useful, we need to keep learning and adding to our knowledge. Throughout our lives, we'll encounter new things, meet new people, and face new challenges. Each of these experiences teaches us something new. We need to use what we have learned to solve problems, face challenges, and make things better. Life is about constant learning and growing. Growing older isn't just about getting older, it's about growing wiser and improving ourselves. We should always be learning and gaining deeper understanding of life's important lessons. Every experience we have should teach us something new. If we keep having the same experiences, it's because we haven't learned from them yet. So, as we grow and learn, we need to also be open to change and keep improving our understanding and insight. So, what can we do practically to develop this inner harmony and integrity? One of the first steps is to remind ourselves of the kind of person we aspire to be. This doesn't mean being perfect, but rather being honest, sincere, kind, gentle, understanding, patient, and having the courage to stand up for what we believe is right. We need to constantly focus on this ideal and evaluate our actions based on it. We should regularly ask ourselves, am I living up to this ideal? If not, we need to make corrections and improve ourselves. We must understand that every problem we encounter is an opportunity for personal growth. Each problem challenges our internal understanding, and if we handle them well, we become stronger and better individuals. Avoiding problems only keeps us stuck in old habits and conditions. Therefore, we should face and solve each problem that comes our way. How do we approach these problems? Firstly, we should try to calm ourselves and get quiet inside. For complex problems, take some time to think calmly and gather the facts, avoiding biases. It's important to have the courage to admit when we make mistakes and learn from them. We're not perfect, we're human, and we need to learn gradually. Self-discipline can help a lot in this learning process. Many people lack discipline and get carried away by their emotions, attitudes, desires, and ambitions. This can lead to confusion and being overwhelmed by circumstances. The person needs to build a strong inner integrity that can handle different situations without getting overwhelmed by fears, anxieties, prejudices, or hatred. They must stay grounded, look at things calmly, and try to understand them based on timeless principles. Doing this makes problems seem less challenging. When we get emotionally upset, we lose sight of things, lose understanding, and lose control of the situation. So, calming our minds is like an inner meditation. It's acknowledging how important our inner life is, which should guide how we behave. There are various ways to calm the mind. Some find comfort and strength through prayer, where they bring their problems to a higher power for solace and empowerment. Others achieve it through study, reading inspiring books, scriptures, philosophy, or engaging with art and literature. These activities help us build a solid foundation within ourselves that we can depend on. Some find inner calmness through music, art, appreciating beauty, connecting with nature, or feeling the significance of the universe. There are many ways to deepen our inner life. The key is to take a little time each day to calm ourselves and focus on what truly matters. We need to align our values correctly. When our values are right, our actions follow suit. But if our values are wrong, our actions will be too. And we might end up blaming others for our mistakes, feeling confused, and not understanding things clearly. In our personal growth, there are many paths to choose from, and each person can pick what fits them best. The key is to remember that we're here to learn, grow, and help others. If we learn to rely on the eternal principles of goodness within us, we can reflect the divine plan. We can mirror the infinite love, wisdom, and power that guides the universe. This makes us partners in the divine plan, contributing to the purpose of life. Life then becomes an amazing journey, not a burden or sadness. It's a chance to learn, grow, serve others, and make a difference, which is the greatest thing that can happen to anyone. You can make a big discovery, but only if you use all your inner resources to stop prejudice from expecting changes and clouding your ability to think clearly. Another way to reduce unfair prejudices is by studying a bit of philosophy. Philosophy isn't just about religion. Some see it as a different topic, but it's really about aligning yourself with facts. It can help you understand and evaluate situations that come up in your thoughts. So, a bit of philosophy can be really helpful. It can ease the pressure you feel to always get your way. Philosophy can show you that many situations where you're unpleasant or unkind aren't really that important. Maybe you're rushing to succeed, willing to give up friendships, family trust, and everything else for wealth. Then you hear about someone who achieved success but suffered a health issue right after. At moments like these, you can think philosophically. Are the things you're striving for worth the risks they bring to your life? One of the common things that can bring danger into our lives isn't just relentless ambition, it's also relentless irritability. Many people are always critical, finding fault with everything and everyone, even when they don't know much about the topic. Being too critical can push away friends, and being intolerant can break apart families. Gradually, this constant nagging and fault-finding can destroy or suppress the good things in life. How does this affect our health? Almost all the classic health studies, and many modern ones too, especially those from some schools of idealistic psychology, show the negative impact of constant criticism and fault-finding. Any psychiatrist or psychologist will tell you that having a bad attitude is a heavy burden on the body and mind. People who are naturally kind, generous, and optimistic have a better chance of living a happy and healthy life. This doesn't mean they won't face occasional hardships, but overall, a friendly outlook on life is better for health. It reduces the risk of high blood pressure and keeps digestion functioning smoothly. Hatred, suspicion, and constant criticism are harmful, more dangerous than any germ we might encounter. Anything that disturbs our peace of mind also threatens our well-being. Unfortunately, many people suffer because they lack this kind of positive mindset that helps overcome such problems. You may notice that not only young people but also older individuals can have bad attitudes. Having a bad attitude doesn't necessarily mean a person will die immediately, but it does make life unpleasant for them and those around them. Living without inner peace makes life feel like a slow decline. When someone can't handle life well, it's like they've stopped truly living. Bad attitudes are too harmful to tolerate, especially in today's world. We all need inner peace and calmness, a sense of unity within ourselves so that our inner self doesn't cause us constant stress and irritation. The Zen practice from the East has helped many individuals, although you can follow its principles regardless of your religion. Every religion values peace, and when peace is disturbed, the essence of faith is lost. To solve these problems, you must reduce your tendency to get annoyed. Some people say they'd do it if others stopped bothering them, but annoyance isn't caused by just one person. There's a Zen story about this, where a master asks a student to clap with both hands, then with one hand, which puzzles the student. However, if one person isn't annoyed, the whole issue can't continue. Since you can't usually change others, it's best not to let yourself get annoyed. There are ways to avoid annoyance. Firstly, you can realize that the annoyance might not be worth your attention if you think about it for a moment. Another way is to see interruptions as not a big deal unless you let them bother you. Also, try to understand the other person's perspective and what they might be going through, instead of assuming you're the victim. Maybe they are the ones struggling with stress and sensitivity. If that's the case, then your strength should guide your response. Gradually, you can think your way out of many of these situations by looking at them differently. However, there's always this underlying idea that all the thinking and reasoning is just a way to persuade you not to do the wrong things. This implication might not be obvious, but it's always there, like a hidden pressure within all of us. This pressure dates back to the earliest days of humanity, when the forces shaping us today began to take form. It's like a part of us that insists on doing what we want, which is often called self-will. According to the Zohar, even angels fail because of self-will. The challenge is to align our self-will with what is necessary and right. Necessity is our ultimate guide, and it shows us that only through integrity can we truly thrive and survive. If you're bothered by small problems, you can take some time to sit quietly and think about one of these issues. Ask yourself why you feel antagonistic towards certain people. What have they done to you? Sometimes this animosity is simply due to something you read in the news or heard from commentators. Remember, you have the right to choose who you associate with. If there's something you don't believe in, you don't have to pretend it's right or try to see good in it if it's not there. What matters is that if you can't support it or understand it, it's okay to leave it aside for now. Don't agree with anything that's wrong, but don't let yourself get emotionally caught up in prejudice, criticism, and condemnation. It's okay to calmly say, "I can't accept that," and then explain why. but if you get too worked up, try to persuade others to feel the same way, and find that you can't back up your position when discussing it, it's better to calm down and conserve your energy. Sometimes arguments start with a little evidence, but as they go on, the evidence gets stretched and pressured. We tend to object to any statement made, just because it's made. So when you're dealing with problems or dislike someone, try to prove it to yourself first. Sit down and find some evidence that justifies your feelings and prevents you from understanding the other person. See if you can correct any misunderstandings caused by your own prejudices. These are helpful tricks to use on yourself. Make sure you truly live according to what you preach. Just believing in something isn't enough. Your actions need to match your beliefs. Religion isn't just about having a certain attitude or following a creed. It's about living a life in line with divine principles. Merely belonging to a religious group or accepting its teachings without putting them into practice doesn't hold much weight. True religion is about practicing the presence of God in your actions and behavior. Every thought we have should be enlightened or beneficial. Otherwise, it's not worth much and can be ignored. A true religion should heal conflicts instead of causing them. If a religion doesn't promote peace and understanding, no matter what it's called, it's not fulfilling its purpose. Throughout history, there have been many religious conflicts, and unfortunately, we still face such threats today. It's ironic that some people who believe in the unity of humanity can't get along with their neighbors. Many claim to have religious or ethical beliefs, but they don't show these values in their daily interactions. If a religion allows us to keep disliking, criticizing, and pursuing selfish goals without promoting harmony and kindness, then it's failing to fulfill its true potential. It's about making it happen. Making it happen isn't as hard as it might seem. I've seen many cases where making it happen solves the problem. Prejudice avoids facing facts. When confronted with facts, prejudice struggles. Prejudice isn't a fundamental flaw, it's an attitude towards something. If a person or situation is so morally wrong that we can't accept them, then we may need to let the law handle it. Trust that justice will prevail. The Chinese understood this concept well. Leave difficult situations to the law, and over time, those causing trouble will find it harder to maintain their negative behaviors. We can't change everyone. Sometimes we can help a bit, but when things are deeply rooted, the law has to step in. The universe operates under a benevolent law. Universal law doesn't have selfishness, willfulness, or prejudice. Its purpose is to bring happiness, security, integrity, and perfection to all living beings. We should try to make a positive difference where we can, but if we can't, there's no point in making things worse. Where we can make a change, we should work on overcoming our own biases, intolerances, and prejudices. This not only benefits us, but also sets a good example for others. Children won't learn from advice unless parents follow it themselves. We won't earn respect from others if we don't stick to the principles we believe in. And we can't effectively help others unless we've faced and overcome similar challenges ourselves, gaining deeper insights in the process. Overcoming difficulties strengthens our understanding, providing a stronger foundation for personal integrity. By setting a good example and living by principles like the Golden Rule or teachings similar to the Sermon on the Mount, we can find peace even amidst hostility. We can respond with kindness even when faced with negativity, although this isn't easy for many people. When people are hurt, they sometimes want to hurt others in return. If they feel they've been treated unfairly, they might feel the need to retaliate with an unfair action. However, this isn't the right approach. Instead of reacting impulsively, it's important to calm down and carefully understand the situation. It could be a simple misunderstanding or something that doesn't have a strong basis in reality. No matter what the situation is, try to handle it with fairness and kindness. Balancing justice and mercy is not unusual, and they should always go hand in hand. While it's okay to assess others' actions, doing so without compassion can harm your own well-being, especially in terms of blood pressure. So remember the importance of being fair and merciful in your judgments. When someone behaves in a slightly unpleasant or unsure manner, rather than judging them right away, try to think about what difficulties they might be dealing with. Instead of assuming they are unpleasant, consider how you could possibly assist them. Keeping a positive and helpful outlook is always important. By doing this, you will slowly change your own goals. Our ability to transform ambition is the most powerful way to spread positive feelings. Ambition and vision are like our inner selves striving for respect and honor. Aspiration is about seeking truth, and this quest for truth is ultimately the great journey of life. Having an exciting job is great because none of us likes doing the same thing all the time. It's amazing to have goals to work towards, something that will make us feel more fulfilled than ever. And all of this is connected to ambition. Ambition is the drive to improve ourselves. Aspiration means growing closer to the truth and letting more truth into our lives. It's about constantly developing and improving, not just about gathering more things. Aspiration doesn't mean being poor, but it does mean using what we have wisely and dedicating ourselves to worthy goals. Ambition doesn't always lead us to use things wisely. Ambition doesn't stop us from misusing our success, but aspiration does. With aspiration, we can succeed without causing harm. It doesn't matter how much truth or insight we gain, it doesn't take away from others, and we won't misuse it. Positive understanding prevents us from harming others. Aspiration shields us from selfishness, adversity, and egoism. It also helps us understand that all religions lead to the same ultimate goal, inner transformation. True understanding involves recognizing that what we become is connected to what we focus on. This includes becoming closer to what we consider as divine. Anything that distracts us from these fundamental goals isn't helpful. We can't expect instant change from anyone. It takes time to develop the insights we require. But the first step is to believe in this process. We need to acknowledge that there are things within ourselves that need to change. We are letting certain negative traits take control, such as self-will, selfishness, arrogance, ambition, and greed. However, these qualities are not reasonable, as Buddha has taught us. The reasons for suffering are these negative traits. As long as they persist, suffering will continue. A greedy person is never satisfied. An ambitious person sacrifices too much and still doesn't achieve all their ambitions. Even if they reach their goals, they can't hold on to them for long before someone else takes over. This fear was evident in one of the Roman emperors. An old wise person gently told the emperor that no one in history has ever managed to destroy their own successor. Someone will always come after. Similarly, no matter how successful we become, we can't stop someone else from following. The real answer is not about gathering things or making a name for ourselves. It's about developing values within us that create a lasting reputation, because the most significant reputations endure over time. Now, Jesus didn't have any possessions or a permanent home, yet leaders from around the world have respected him. Buddha gave up his kingdom and wealth to live as a wandering beggar, and because of that he's loved by many people in Asia. Confucius didn't have a lot of money, but he lived a helpful life. His final words were, "I have failed." However, he has become a symbol of Chinese wisdom and achievement. These things aren't just temporary opinions. They're what naturally happened because of his life and teachings. Earning divine merit means gaining goodness in the eyes of divine beings. This goodness is what ultimately brings respect, honor, and approval. Sometimes a person who does good deeds may not see the results during their lifetime. For example, a wise and caring parent might not live long enough to see how their guidance and love positively affect their child. However, the goodness they instilled carries on, not just to their child, but also to future generations. As time passes, good things keep growing, while bad things tend to ruin themselves. Nearly everyone who tries to disobey rules eventually learns that life becomes difficult when rules are broken. No one truly gets away with breaking rules. Instead, they end up getting caught by the very rules they tried to break. This happens in all sorts of life situations. If you follow the rules, they help you and you can achieve your true purpose. Materialism has narrowed our understanding of these ideas. Some people think the only goal is to enjoy life and get everything you can while you're alive. But that's only temporary. As we continue living, we should consider. In today's economy, which is ironically not very efficient, things seem to be getting worse each day. The more selfish we become, the more everyone suffers. When we take more than we need, we end up feeling more pain. The more we hold on to grudges, the more our mistakes harm us. And this cycle repeats itself. So each person can do their part, even if it's just a small effort. Each person can reflect on their own actions and try to improve themselves. They can make sure that what they say and do is positive and well-intentioned. Always remember, it's much better to be taken advantage of than to take advantage of others. Being wise can help you avoid being tricked. Wisdom is what you need when you're tempted to cheat someone. If you're wise enough, you'll resist the urge. We can take small steps towards being better people. We can try to change our attitudes towards things we don't like or understand, like certain people or beliefs. Maybe we can give it a try. If we went to a few gatherings of different religions, we'd get a better understanding of them. Whenever we start to dislike something, we should make sure we truly understand it. Often, our dislikes come from not knowing enough about the matter. It's like saying we're all the same as dogs just because we met one dog we didn't like. Thinking all dogs are bad just because one bit us is wrong. There are many good dogs, even if they're the same kind as the one that bit us. Maybe something we did made the dog bite us. If not, then we can say that specific dog was dangerous. But it doesn't mean all dogs are dangerous. If someone from a minority group cheats, just because one person from a group cheats us, we shouldn't judge the whole group. We might not like certain attitudes of certain religious groups, but we forget that these attitudes might not be common to everyone in the group. Actually, people from other religions are often just like us. They have the same faults that we do. In some religions, the faults aren't any worse than the ones we have in our own beliefs, but we've ignored them for a long time. So I aim to bring people together, and you'll see that by doing this, you'll have fewer problems and less sadness. Your life will be better, and you'll save a lot of time and energy. Feeling stressed out often leads to being tense and on edge. Even though someone might not be yelling or getting visibly upset, they could still feel nervous and irritated inside, especially over small things that aren't really worth worrying about. Many people have told me this. They don't understand why they felt nervous. It just happened. They might have been tired and things weren't going well. Then something small happened and it felt overwhelming. If we calm our minds, these emergencies won't happen. The easiest way to finish a task is to let it finish on its own. If we stay calm and let things happen naturally, we'll save a lot of energy. When we stop trying to control a problem, it might even resolve itself better. So, whenever things get tense or stressful, try to relax. Maybe pick up a book and read a bit. Read something inspiring. Listen to some uplifting music. Be careful though, if you listen to sad music, you might feel worse. Instead, try listening to something cheerful. Look at beautiful art, take a walk in nature, or do something that makes you feel connected to life. Remember, we're all part of a beautiful universe and we're doing our best. It's easiest to ruin things, and everyone has their own life that they're trying their best to mess up. This messing up is becoming common, and we can't let it continue. It's not right, it's unkind, and it's harmful. So, the next time you feel like spreading gossip or criticizing someone, remember it's not helping anyone, it's just making things worse. If you feel like saying something negative, take a moment to calm down and reflect. See if you can understand why you tend to act that way. Try to change yourself so that you start appreciating positive things and looking for the good in situations. You might not always find it, but often you'll see goodness where you didn't before. When we feel tense and stressed, it can be helpful to think positively. But sometimes positive thinking is just about satisfying our own wants. We convince ourselves that we deserve something we desire, This might work, especially if someone feels inferior. But positive thinking isn't just about making ourselves feel good. Positive thinking is understanding the power of goodness in life. It's knowing that truth guides everything. It's also believing that fairness always prevails, and the best way to achieve good is by learning to love one another calmly and kindly. When we truly believe this, our lives will become more organized, helpful, and joyful.